Ladies and gentlemen, hello, this is Debo over at Lansay Go, and we've got some more exciting content here for you today. We just purchased 90 packs of Core Set 20, so let's go ahead and open that up and see what we get, and hopefully we get some good stuff, because I'm pretty excited about this set. Alright, so let's go ahead and open our first 10 here. Alright, so already we got some really powerful rares. So, Field of the Dead, pretty interesting card. It's one of these cards that, you know, you can really abuse it with like something like Scape Shift, maybe in a Gates deck. We did also just get a new rare land cycle, which can help us get to the 7 different lands. It's pretty interesting. So, I think that, you know, we could probably find something in like a Lands Matters deck to go with this kind of a card. Kaikar, Wind's Fury, very powerful card in a Jeskai like Spellslinger deck. You can flood the board with tokens. You can use those tokens to then get red mana. Maybe this is something that we can use to cast something like an Apex of Power, to be able to get up to that 10 mana, something like that. Perhaps it's a card that we can use to get up to the 10 mana to cast like an Omniscience, to then be able to cast a bunch of stuff for free. It does say non-creature spell, so it also works with like Planeswalkers, artifacts, that type of thing. Pretty good card. I like it. It'd be something to kind of try out with something similar to like what I mentioned. Cavalier of the Flame. Alright, so this is actually one of the more powerful of the Cavalier cycle. So it has a haste enabler built onto it. You got to pay 2 mana to it. But it also pumps your creatures +1/+0, all of your creatures. So this is a very good card. I think it's one of those ones that will can definitely see some good play. It's already a 6/5 for 5, really good rate on there. When it enters, it also has an enters the battlefield ability, which allows you to discard any number of cards. You can then draw that. Excuse me. You can then draw that many cards. Now, what's really interesting with this, we also have a card in Standard right now called Bag of Holding, which is a single mana artifact. It says whenever you discard a card, you can you exile it instead of putting it into your graveyard, and then you can pay 4 and tap it to and sack it to be able to get back all cards exiled with Bag of Holding. So this could maybe be a way for you to like cycle away your hands, draw new cards. Later on, you can refill with your Bag of Holding. I think it's gonna be something kind of interesting. It's also got a death ability, which is really good too. So where it deals X damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control. So it's like a board wipe for planeswalkers for each land that's in your graveyard. That's going to be really powerful. It's going to be something you have to kind of build around. Now, obviously, it kind of fuels that itself. Maybe you have to use something like a Heartfelt Goodbye or whatever, the red-white, 2 red-white, instant, discard your hand, draw that many cards, maybe Tormenting Voice, something like that in a deck like this. But I think it could be pretty fun. Sorin, another mythic. So we actually got a couple mythics in this set here. I think 3 right off the bat, which is actually pretty good. So we got Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord, 2 and a black. This is gonna be perfect for a vampires list. You could, as early as turn 2, get down a excuse me, get down a like a Haunts of Hightower on turn 2. That seems really powerful. So I don't know. I think there's even if you don't go like cheeky like that, I think there's still a good chance for you to be able to play this in like a white-black, maybe Abzan style list where you want to get this guy down and just interact with your vampires, that type of a thing. Next we have Villas, Broker of Blood, 8 mana, 8/8 flying. You can pay a black, pay 2 life. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Kind of sucks it's not a -1/-1 counter, but it is what it is. And then whenever you lose life, you draw that many cards. So we have a lot of things in Standard right now that causes us to lose life. Not to mention your opponent's just hitting you. But one of our shock lands will cause us to lose life, draw 2 cards. That seems really, really, really powerful. Not to mention you could also pair this with something like Fonts of Agonies and be able to have removal along with this like paying life type of a synergy. We also have like Axis of Immortality to be able to like swap life totals with our opponent. There's a lot of like interesting things that we could maybe piece together with this. I don't think you're ever going to pay 8 mana for it. It's likely going to be one of those cards that you happen to sack something or excuse me, like you reanimate it back into play. We have a bunch of different reanimation spells. It's a good card. I like it. It's probably more of a commander thing than standard, but I'm sure people will try to build around it in standard. It is a very powerful effect. Temple, great. We got another land. Having these rare lands are going to be really important moving forward. And then it's got a scry ability when it enters battlefield tapped. Taps for red and white. It's pretty straightforward. Dungeon Geist. So 2 blue for a 3/3 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Dungeon Geists. So this card is going to be really powerful in a blue-white, maybe Esper Spirits list, or maybe if it goes Jeskai. I think there might be a couple of red spirits in standard right now. You have a couple of options to be able to go with a spirits list, and this is going to be one of the best cards you can play. It's basically a Frost Titan for 4 mana, but it's got lower power and toughness. So I think it's a pretty good card, especially if you're going to be playing this with like Supreme Phantom, something like that, buff up its power and toughness. I think it's going to be a really good card. Shifting Ceratops, 2 green for a 5/4. Can't be countered. Protection from blue, so kind of negates this guy right away. And then green, shifting Ceratops gains your choice of reach, trample, or haste until end of turn. So for 5 mana, you get a 5/4 with haste. That can't be countered, and it's got protection from blue, so it can't be like unsummoned, something like that. This card is going to be really, really good. If it's not going to be being played main board, it'll definitely be played in the sideboard of green lists. So I definitely like this card. Keep your eye out for it. It's going to be a really good one. Sephara Sky's Blade, 7 mana for a 7/7, but really you're never going to pay that 7 mana. It's going to be white and tap 4 and tap flying creatures, and you can cast it without paying its mana cost. It's got flying lifelink, and the glorious thing on this is it also gives all of your other creatures with flying. It gives it just gives it right away indestructible. So if you pair this with something like Helm of the Host, it could be kind of funny, where maybe you you Helm of the Host your Sephara, then all of a sudden they now both have indestructible and flying, lifelink, etc. So maybe somebody can be kind of cheeky like that. We do have a couple of ways to reduce the cost of like equipping equipment and casting equipment, so might be something to consider. Thunderkin Awakener, 1 in red for a 1/2. It's got haste, and then whenever it attacks, choose target elemental creature in your graveyard with toughness less than Thunderkin Awakener's toughness. Return that card to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So what's really interesting about this card is we can actually get back the Multani from Dominaria. So with Multani, he says, he basically says in the rules text that he gets +1/+1 for each land in play and in your graveyard, but it only affects him once he's on the battlefield. In all other zones, he's a 0/0. So being able to swing in with the Thunderkin Awakener, you can basically get a free Multani every single turn that's already attacking. And then you have to sacrifice him at the end of the turn, but you can get him back. It's okay. And then if they try to like target him inside your graveyard, you can then use your mana to get him from your graveyard back into your hand to kind of like fizzle their spell. So good card. I think that's kind of going to be kind of where it gets paired with. There's not a lot of elementals in standard right now to really like make use of it. There are some, and if you were to get back, your elementals, you'll probably have to buff this guy, but like buff his toughness a bit versus just keeping him at like a 1/2. But there's ways around it, and yeah, I think it could be really interesting. All right, let's go to the next 10. Hey, Land Party, good to see you again. Well, he doesn't necessarily survive a shock. He was a 1/2, so he would have died right away. But but if you were to buff his toughness, then yeah, he would survive a shock at that point. But anyways, our next 10. Hey, look, we got another Sorin, so that's pretty sweet. Already filling out those mythic slots. We have Agent of Treachery. So this card kind of feels like to me one more of a commander card, maybe a sealed or limited card, but it's a win more card. So you're probably not going to play it. If you do, it's likely going to be in your sideboard. It's great that he can take any permanent. and just gain control of it. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, you can draw 3 cards. So maybe if you can like get this guy out early, maybe you reanimate him, you flicker him a couple of times, that could be a way for you to be able to like abuse this guy. But he's going to be kind of like more of a jank deck type of a card versus going into like a mainstream style of deck. Chandra's Regulator, 1 in a red legendary artifact. Whenever you activate the loyalty ability of a Chandra you control, you can pay 1. If you do copy that ability, you can choose new targets for the copy. You can also pay 1, tap it, discard a mountain card or a red card, and draw a card. So even if you never make use of that top ability, the bottom ability is already really good, especially if you're going to be playing this like in a mono red list. So in a mono red, one of the problems is you can run into lands, right? You just get a huge pocket of lands. Well, being able to then pay 1, tap it, discard that mountain that you just drew to then draw a card is going to be really good. And this could see maybe some sideboard play, maybe 1 or 2 in the main board, something like that. I'm definitely up on this card, especially if you're going to be playing like Chandra Tribal, which we have 4 Chandras legal and standard at the moment. So I'm pretty excited about this card. I think it could do some pretty interesting stuff. But as it stands right now, even just that bottom half of the ability is still really, really good. Grafdigger's Cage, saw a reprint, modern staple. It's great for sideboards. Creature cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Excuse me. So you can't pan Glacial Worm, and you can't cast things from your graveyard. You can't reanimate from your graveyard. Nothing like that. And then players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. So there's a bunch of other abilities that allow you to cast, like Finale of Promise, for instance, would basically be fizzled with this card. So there's a lot of really good places for this card in standard, especially for reanimation stylist pops up. But it already hoses like Phoenix deck, so I like it a lot. Dread Presence, 3 in a black for a 3/3. Whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. You draw a card and you lose 1 life. And then Dread Presence deals 2 damage to any target, and you gain 2 life. So this card's amazing, especially like on a mono black list that's running that 1 land that allows you to tap for 3 and tap, and you can get X mana, where X is the number of swamps you control. Being able to make use of that swamp landfall is going to be really powerful. Remember, this triggers on any swamp also, not just basic swamps. So it can also trigger on your swamp dual lands, that type of a thing. So I'm definitely pretty high on this card. I like it a lot. It'll be fun in like those style of lists. Great limited card, great sealed card. Excuse me, getting over a little cough here. But even just if you use that 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life, you could actually kill an opponent's creature and gain 2 life whenever you bring in a swamp. If you're running like a green-black Explorer list or a ramp list or something like that, you could possibly get your swamps all the time. I like this card. I think it's pretty cool. Nightpack Ambusher, 2 green for a 4/4 with flash. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1. Makes it kind of more of a commander card. There's not a whole lot of wolf support. There is some. Who knows? Maybe we'll end up going back to Innistrad with this still in standard. I don't know. Maybe. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you didn't cast a spell this turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. So it's one of those. It's kind of like that same werewolf style effect. When you get your wolves, it does feed into itself. If you play this with the Vivian Champion of the Wilds, you can actually get all of your creatures flash. So then you can play this all on your opponent's turn and be able to get make use of that ability. Get free 2/2s every turn. And if you pair that with your other wolf synergies, like with the new Arlen or the new green-white elf, you can also gain much of life, fight, put +1/+1 counters on it, and there's a bunch of things like that. The only problem I have with this card is that it comes after the turn Baby Teferi comes down into play, which would basically remove the flash aspect of it, which kind of sucks. But something to consider. I do kind of like it. Maybe it's one of those cards that could be like main board for very specific lists, and then you take it out whenever Baby Teferi is what your opponents are playing. Dungeon Geist, we already went over that. It's cool to see that got another one. Marauding Raptor. This is a card that JB is just going on and on about. He's got a list. He either posted it today or it's for Friday. That's going to be based around using this with dinos and triggering their enrage ability. So it's 2 mana for 2/3 creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So that already is really good with dinos, making their huge mana cost lower. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 2 damage to it. If a dinosaur is dealt damage this way, Marauding Raptor gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So this could be a way for you to get this out, play a bunch of dinos, make this thing really huge and swing in. It also will trigger all of your enrage abilities as well. This card could actually really make dinos work, and it's cool that we finally got this. Sucks that we only get it for about 3 months, but that's probably why they planned it this way, just so that way we don't get an instance where dinos just kind of like takes over the play. So it's interesting. I'm up on it. If you can't tell, I'm kind of like just up on this whole set. So I like it. I think it can make some good plays with something like dinos. Glinthorn Buccaneer. For 1 red, we have a 2/4 with haste. Whenever you discard a card, Glinthorn Buccaneer deals 1 damage to each opponent. 1 red, discard a card, draw a card, activate this ability if Glinthorn Buccaneer is attacking. Now, we didn't get a chance to actually spoil this with our spoiler videos, but this card is actually pretty interesting. It has this discard a card ability, and then it has an ability to feed into that, so you can deal damage whenever you discard cards, cycling through your hand, your deck, all that kind of stuff. Again, with Bag of Holding, this pairs really well with it. And then we can also use something like all of our other like card discard spells. There's kind of like a Mardu list that allows us to do this. We have that 5 mana sorcery that allows us to get a bunch of 2/2s for discarding, for each opponent discarding each player discarding their hand. So that could then all of a sudden deal just a bunch of damage to your opponent. If you're cycling through your list with like Tormenting Voice and things like that, you'll just be pinging your opponent left and right. I do think that this could make a really interesting deck, and it'll be a very important piece in that side of the list. Loxodon Life Chanter, 6 mana, 4/6. When it enters the battlefield, you may have your life total become the total toughness of creatures you control. And then you can pay 6 mana, and Life Chanter gets +X till end of turn, where X is your life total. So if you have 12 mana, you can get a whole bunch of life, which is kind of interesting. Really, this is a limited card, maybe a commander card. Probably not going to see play in standard. A little too slow. Maybe like a casual list or something like that. Yeah, it's okay. Our next 10 that we have here. Rotting Regisaur. So a 7/6 for 3 mana. Awesome. I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can abuse this. It has a steep upkeep cost of discarding a card, but there's ways around that. I mean, heck, right next on the next turn, you could play Kumena's Awakening and just completely negate that effect. So there's that. But no, like, even if you are discarding cards, you can still be playing something like a reanimation spell. This triggers before your draw step. So even if you're empty-handed, maybe you're playing like mono black aggro or something like that, and you're empty-handed, and then you draw a reanimation spell, you just cast it on your turn, and you'll be fine. So I think it's okay. All right, got another mythic rare and a rare wild card. Cavalier of Dawn. Okay, so this one actually will see some play too. 5 mana, 4/6 Vigilance. You can just, when it enters the battlefield, you destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. Then when it dies, you return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can actually use this for your benefit in your own deck, and then you can also like hit your opponent's stuff too. What I mean by that is that we do have a card still. It's 2 and a blue. It's Induced Amnesia. When it enters the battlefield, you exile your hand, you draw that many cards, and then whenever Induced Amnesia is placed into the graveyard, and put those cards exiled from it back into your hand. So, excuse me, turn 3, you play that, you exile your hand, you draw that many cards. You then, on turn 5, play this, you destroy your Induced Amnesia, it goes to the graveyard, you get a 3/3 Golem, you refill your hand, Cavalier dies, you get back your Induced Amnesia, you do it again. So there's some pretty interesting stuff that we can do there. I like it. It's kind of interesting. Not to mention just being able to blow up your opponent's stuff is pretty good. Temple of Silence, again, another Scryland. It's decent. Leyline of Abundance, new Leyline, 4 mana. Put it on the battlefield if it's in your opening hand. Each creature that taps for mana, you can add an additional green. So it's kind of like a mana doubler for your nerds, which is kind of interesting. Then you can pay 8 mana and put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So neat. Elvish Reclaimer, pretty up on this card too. Gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 or more land cards in your graveyard. Bunch of ways to put lands in there. So that's pretty easy to do. For a single mana for a 1/2 also. And you can also pay 2 and tap it, and then sacrifice a land and search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. So a really interesting way for you to be able to filter your lands, get the colors you need. It's a tutor. Tutors are very powerful. You can also tutor up utility lands as well. I think it's pretty good. Repeated Reverberation. Love this card. Near and dear to my heart. 2 red for an instant. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell or activate a loyalty ability, copy that ability or spell twice. You choose new copies. So one of the ones I was kind of up on is you could pair this with something like Kefnet. So you reveal this on your upkeep, and then you can pay 2 red, and then your next spell you get to copy twice, and then you still get to have this in your hand. That seems really good. You can pair this also with something like Land Party Kefnet. Yeah. I'm up on that. I'm really excited. Oh, no, that's not cheating. That's not cheating. You can also put something like Ral, which will give you the -2 ability to then be able to copy this, so you can then get 5 copies of your spells the next time you cast it, so you can just burn out your opponent with like a lightning strike after that. So both of those are pretty great. Another Life Chanter and another Agent of Treachery. Moving on. Alright, another Sephara, awesome. Another Life Chanter. We've almost got a full playset now. There's that Bag of Holding I was talking to you about. So again, whenever you discard a card, you exile it from your graveyard. So it first hits your graveyard and then you exile it. And then you can pay 2 and tap to draw a card and then discard a card. You can also pay 4 and tap to sacrifice Bag of Holding and return all cards exiled with Bag of Holding to their owner's hands. And then it's also a single mana to get down, so it's pretty good. And look, we got the Chandra Awakened Inferno, another mythic. So really powerful spell, can't be countered. 6 mana, 6 loyalty, +2. Each opponent gets an emblem. It has an emblem on its uptick. It's crazy. That deals 1 damage to them. So you pair this with your Chandra's Regulator. Now all of a sudden you for 7 mana you can cast this, activate it, pay 1, and then now they're getting a shock on every turn. Mystic Forge, 4 copies, perhaps. I'm not sure. We'd have to double check. That'd be great. That'd be great to have a playset. Cavalier of Thorns. This is probably the weakest in the cycle, to be honest. It's a 5/6 with reach for 5 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you reveal the top 5, put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, so it ramps you, I guess, and the rest into your graveyard, which is good if you're in like a like a graveyard synergy deck. And then when it dies, you may exile it, and if you do, you can put target card from your graveyard on top of your library. So it's great that it doesn't specify what type of card, so you can put like whatever answer you need there, but it sucks it just doesn't go to your hand. So I don't think that would have been too overpowered, in my opinion. Kalia, another mythic. 3 mana, 3/3, Flying Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 6. You can put a demon, angel, or dragon into your hand. So so that's up to 3 cards that you can draw. And if you happen to get lucky, I mean, that's going to be a really great rate. Land Party. Yeah, it's not automatically the strongest. Unfortunately, it's not even the highest power either. The red one's got the highest power, and the red one has an anthem too. So, yeah, I'm not really up on this card, to be honest, unless you really build around it, like you want to make use of the reanimation in it. Bishop of Wings. This card is great in Angel Tribal. White 1/4. When an angel enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. That is not inconsequential. That's a huge amount of life gain for just an ETB trigger. And then whenever an angel you control dies, you can create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So it's got board wipe protection as well. So we do still have Resplendent Angel, which says when you've ever gained 5 life in a turn, you can get a 4/4 angel. So we also have like a Johnny's Welcome. So a Johnny's Welcome on turn 1, Bishop on turn 2, and then Resplendent Angel on turn 3, gain 5 life, get a 4/4, gain another 4 life. That's pretty insane. So this could really make angels a thing. It really could. Mystic Forge is kind of like a bad experimental frenzy. So it's interesting. It'll probably only see play in like a blue-black, maybe Grixis artifact list. The pay life ability on it is kind of interesting too, since it's just a tap ability. But yeah, we'll see. Another Dread Presence, and then Knight of Ebon Legion. Good for vampires and knights. It's just a great 1-drop. Both of those tribes needed better 1-drops, and this just kind of fills that slot. It's really good. Hey, look at that! 2 of the rare Chandra right in a row. So what's really interesting about this is it has 2 0 abilities and a -2. But one of the 0 abilities technically puts a counter on it. So it says put a loyalty counter on each red planeswalker you control. She's red, you get a counter on it, so you can keep buffering her up. But since it's on each, you can also put it on your Nicol Bolas. You can put it on your Jaya. You can put it on your Angrath planeswalkers. You can put it on your Nahiris, etc., etc., etc. It's just kind of like a really interesting thing. Put on your Ral, sure, why not? So it's got a really interesting ability. And it's interesting that it anthems for all of your red planeswalkers. And then its other 0 ability, you can create 2 1/1 red elementals, and then they gain haste, and then sacrifice them at the beginning of the next instep. What's really great about this is it says sacrifice, so if you have like sacrifice synergies, that will trigger with this as well. You can, since it's the beginning of your next end step, you can also use it as a way to sacrifice those tokens repeatedly to get value for other things as well, like a costly plunder or something like that, to be able to draw cards or what have you. Pretty interesting here. You don't have to attack with the tokens. You can just use them for other things. And then -2, you can cast target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So it could also fit in like a feather deck. You can cast something from your graveyard. It sounds like you still have to pay the mana cost, but you can cast it from the graveyard, target feather, and then goes back into your hand. Yeah, Land Party Sarkin would be really great with this one as well. Really great with this one. Both Sarkins, actually. It would be really good with this one. Masterful Replication, 6 mana, instant. Choose one, create 2 3/3 golems, or choose target artifact you control. Each other artifact you control becomes a copy of that artifact until end of turn. It's powerful. Probably more of a commander card. I don't know how we can really abuse this in standard. Maybe if we're running it in like a Saheeli list that also runs like the 5 mana Lotus, Gilded Lotus. So then you turn all of your like servos into Gilded Lotuses, and then just like tap a bunch of mana to then be able to Banefire your opponent. That sounds kind of interesting, but I'm not sure where else it would go other than playing it in like Sealed, Limited, or Commander. Another Bag of Holding, another Dread Presence. Now makes number 3. I don't know if we have any others. Another Rotting Registrar, Legion's End. We've seen this one before. It's an okay removal spell. The fact that it can hit multiple things, which is 2 mana, is pretty good. But it's got a steep cost of only being able to hit for a mana cost of 2 or less. So it's probably more of a sideboard card than anything else. Drakuseth, Maw of the Flames, or Maw of Flames. 7 mana. Land Party says, with the Masterful Replication, turn all your treasures into thematic compasses and flip them into spires. That actually wouldn't work, because when you turn them into the thematic compasses, it only sees the front side. It doesn't see the back side. So when they go to transform, there's nothing to transform into. So unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. I wish it would. That'd be really cool. Drakuseth, Maw of Flames. 7 mana for a 7/7 flying legendary dragon. Probably more of a commander card. But it's got a crazy attack ability. It says it deals 4 damage to any target and 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets. So it deals 10 damage whenever it attacks. That's pretty insane. Give this guy lifelink and you're gaining 17 life in a single turn. Put like a Basilisk Collar on him and you're also killing whatever it is that you're hitting. So that's pretty awesome. Again, you're probably not going to pay the 7 mana for it unless you're running like the Baby Sarkin to ramp into it. But you're likely going to more be like reanimating this guy. We do have a couple reanimation spells that give haste, so maybe that could be something you could utilize. Leyline Sanctity, you gain hexproof. Pretty good. Moving on. Voracious Hydra. X green trample. It enters the battlefield with X counters on it, and then when it enters the battlefield, you choose 1. Double the number of counters on it, or it fights a creature you don't control. So you could either have like a 4 mana 4/4. Seems good. A 6 mana 8/8. A 7 mana 10/10. Or you could have like a 6 mana 4/4 that also fights something. So it's interesting. I mean, it's probably more of like a casual card. I don't think it's going to see a ton of standard play unless you're really able to make use of like ramping creatures and things like that. Who knows? I think it's just going to be more for like limited and maybe like Hydra Tribal and Commander or something like that. That's true. 20 mana, 36. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Or just get a 20 mana 18/18 that also fights something. I mean, that could work too. Land Party. Vivian, another mythic. Awesome. Looks like we got 2 mythics in this pack, or in this set, plus the wild card here. So whenever 4 mana Vivian Arcbow, Ranger, 4 loyalty. It's a very good utility planeswalker. +1, you can put 2 +1/+1 counters up to 2 target creatures. So you can put like 1 on 1 creature, 1 on another creature, or 2 on 1 creature, something like that. They gain trample until end of turn. We do have a lot of adapt creatures that want to make use of counters being placed on them. So this could fit really well in that type of deck. -3, target creature control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. Really interesting. This can hit planeswalkers as well. There's not a lot of planeswalkers that can have that type of ability, so it's pretty interesting. -5, you may choose a creature card you own from outside the game, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So it's a wish for creatures. Now it takes 2 turns before you can do that, but you can get like a Carnage Tyrant if you need an answer to something. You can get basically any utility creature that you need from your sideboard. It can be pretty interesting. I like it. Another Kalia, great. Another Leyline of Sanctity, great. Another Legion's End, another Leyline. Tail's End, 1 and a blue, instant. We have a new Stifle. Counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or legendary spell. What's great about this card is it also just counters spells. 2. Stifle with a counter spell attached to it. Okay. Excuse me. So pairing that with like in your sideboard against legendary matters decks could be pretty funny. I like it. And another Marauding Raptor. JB will be happy. Oops, I only opened 1. Okay, let's see what we got. Leyline of the Void. Alright, so this is a good hate card as well. Still got that Leyline clause, and then if a card we place into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. We do actually have a couple of pieces that can combo with this. We have like Kaya right now, which combos really well with it. When you ultimate her, basically everything that they've been casting goes to their exile zone. So it's one of those things where you can just like nuke your opponent like that, right? And then you also have like you have something like the new Ashiok that also works with exiling graveyards and things. But if you can get this down turn 1, it shuts down like Phoenix decks. Shuts down any of the red Phoenixes really. And then other like Graveyard Matters decks. It's gonna be a really good piece for that type of a thing. It is important to note that if you cast it later, it does not exile the graveyard, so you still have to figure out a way to get rid of their graveyard, but it will exile every other spell after that, so it's just something to remember. Next 10. With wildcard. Alright, so it looks like we've been seeing this. Here's a new one. Lotus Field, hexproof. Lotus Field enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice 2 lands. Tap, add 3 mana of any one color. Okay. So, if you remember back to that green creature that allowed us to tutor up lands. Turn 1, we cast that. Turn 2, we get another land. We tap it. We get out Lotus Field on turn 2. We now have 3 mana. We sacrifice those 2 lands. They go to the graveyard. And then turn 3, we tap the Lotus Field, get out Crucible of Worlds, and then we can start playing the lands from our graveyard. So that seems pretty good. The fact that this card has hexproof on it makes it really important. There's not... I mean, you could even make like... I don't know, you can maybe abuse this too. Like if you're going to be running this with, say, the Fall of the Thran. So, like, let's say you just mill this to your graveyard or something like that. You Fall of the Thran. First turn, you get back 2 lands. Your opponent gets back 2 lands. Next turn, you get back a Lotus Field and something else. Now you have, I guess it's still 4 mana. But, I don't know. It's something maybe you can figure out some way to abuse. Brought back, really good card. I'm actually going to be putting this in the list I've been kind of teasing for a little while here, the Sagas list. White, choose up to 2 target permanent cards that were in your graveyard. They're put there from the battlefield this turn. Return them to the battlefield tapped. 2 mana reanimation for 2 things. Also hits planeswalkers, also hits creatures, also hits enchantments, also hits artifacts, also hits lands. So maybe that's something you could pair in with your Fall of the Thran, right? So, next, Flood of Tears. Really good card. 6 mana. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If you return 4 or more non-token permanents you control this way, you may put a permanent card onto your hand, from your hand onto the battlefield. So the dream of this is that you cast this, you bounce everything, you bounce all of your stuff as well. You then play something like Omniscience from your hand for free, and then replay everything out of your hand. So, could be really powerful. Another thing to consider as well is maybe like you Flood of Tears, and then you bounce a bunch of stuff, and then you put like a Kefnet into play, right? So if Kefnet hits this off of the reveal, you could also pay 4 mana to bounce everything, and if you return 4 permanents, including Kefnet, you can then also put Kefnet back into play. That's another pretty interesting thing you can try to do with this card as well. Wake Root Elemental, 6 mana, 5/5, pay 5 mana, untap target land you control. It becomes a 5/5 elemental with haste, and is still a land. So this pairs really well with the Nissa Waker of the Wilds. It's 6 mana, so it comes down the turn after Nissa. It has a 5 mana ability on it, so it's one of those things you can probably make use of it somehow. With Nissa's plus ability, you can also turn whatever land that she has plus into a 5/5 at instant speed, and so now you could be swinging in with like an 8/8, or you could protect your 3/3 lands by turning them into 8/8s. It could be really interesting to try that type of a thing with this type of a card. All right, 2 more sets of 10. Let's see what we get. Alright, new card here. Icon of Ancestry. 3 mana. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Those creatures of the chosen type get an Anthem of +1/+1. You also pay 3 and tap and look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card of the chosen type, and from among them put them into your hand and put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. So in those like vampire lists and goblin lists and elf lists and things like that, this is a great way for you to refill your hand once you've run out all of your creatures. There's a couple different ways we can do that in standard. This is just going to be a great card to put in those style of tribal lists. What's also really good about it too is it's just a direct replacement for Radiant Destiny. You take out Radiant Destiny. It was a bad card. It anthemed your team, but it gave them vigilance if you had Ascend. This is a way for you to be able to get a better effect of the Anthem, and then you can also dig for creatures. It's a much better card. I like it a lot. Dawn from Dreams. 2 blue sorcery. Look at the top 7 of your library, put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, so this is basically like a dig through time. And dig through time got banned. So this is pretty good. I mean, it's a little bit worse than dig through time. It's not 2 mana, or effectively 2 mana. It's 4 mana, but you still get to put 2 cards from your hand from the top 7 instead of top 10. There are ways to make this cheaper. Again, Kefnet. Get Kefnet down on your upkeep. 2 blue, dig 7, put 2 in your hand. Pretty powerful. I think this card maybe we'll see 1 or 2 of in like control lists, something like that. There's ways we have like Leyline of Anticipation. We can cast this at instant speed. There's ways to abuse it for sure. Planar Cleansing. Destroy all non-land permanents. Planeswalkers, enchantments, artifacts, oh my, all gone. It's great. Love it. Atemsis. All-seeing. 3 and 3 blue. 4/5 flyer with 2 and a blue. Tap, draw 2 cards and discard a card. And it has excuse me, it has an alternate win con. It says whenever it deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs are revealed this way, that player loses the game. So notice it doesn't say combat damage, it just says damage. So you can put a pinging ability on this guy to be able to then reveal your hand, cause them to lose the game. If you play this with like the Dragonfire Heartbow or whatever it is, you equip with it, it swings in and then deals damage. So if you're playing this like Commander, you can deal damage to an opponent, reveal your hand, kill them, deal damage to another opponent, reveal your hand again, kill them. So I don't know, it could be a pretty good Commander card. And the final 10 here. Another Mythic Wild, really good. Omnath, Locust of the Royal, 1 and Teamer for a 3/3 legendary elemental. I like, it's kind of neat that every time we see Omnath, he kind of gains a color. So I wonder if he'll eventually become 5 color. Kind of neat. So when Omnath, Locust of the Royal, enters the battlefield, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals you control. So if you can flood the board with elementals, you can just deal like a huge amount of damage. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target elemental you control. If you control 8 or more lands, draw a card. So lands matters. If you're playing in a ramp strategy, JB loves those. This could maybe be a good option to be able to put counters on your elementals, kind of buff them up. And then you can also just start drawing cards if you have 8 or more lands. Pretty good. Looks like we've seen all this. I think we finally have a full playset of the Rotting Registrars. That's pretty good. Alright, so that was all of our packs. And let's see what we can do now in the actual gameplay here.